Hey everybody. You guys aren't hearing me. Input. Of course now you're not hearing me. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? I bet you're not. Okay, so this one. All right, cool. Well, then I guess first few seconds, no sound. I apologize. Something happened with my audio interface, but it's fixed now. Okay, so hey everybody. Welcome back to the Turnout. I am your host, Loy. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when we put stuff like this up and when we go live and when we put out new videos and all that stuff. Hopefully you guys watched the last video that we just put up where I was talking about the third season of Are You the One? I'm going to end up watching season 4 probably this week at some point. It's actually not that hard to watch a whole season of that pretty quickly because it's 10 episodes, about 45 minutes an episode, but I binged that show so bad. Anyway, today we're here talking about episode, 14 now, of Charmed, season 3. This one's called Perfecti, is the enemy of good, which again, they're good at those puns in the, the episode titles, definitely. What I'll just go ahead and, I'd like to spoil it up front. This episode was really good. This episode was like, I don't know. I need to figure out who wrote this one and who directed this one, because not only was it written really well, but it was the direction in this one. I felt like they did some really interesting shots. Like there's a shot of like Harry on the stairs in the back, and like it's focusing on him, but you see Macy and Celeste running, moving in the background, and like there was just some really interesting shots in this episode that I thought just the direction was really, really good. And again, the story and the writing and everything was really good too. So those are my thoughts just generally. So now let's start going through the actual episode itself. And again, just like normal, if you have any thoughts or whatever, put them in the chat and I'm going to come back around and hit them when I kind of am done with the breakdown. But this episode I thought was really, really good. It was strong. And, they were really good at splitting it up into a few different, storylines. And, sometimes it's pretty clumsy when they do that sometimes. But this episode, again, like it was executed really, really well. They did a good job of splitting up the screen time and just getting it all. I don't know. They just got it correct this time. This is a good episode. So we start off with Celeste, who is making a serum for Harry to turn immortal. And she says 2 lines that I think are important in this scene. She says, "You must be brave to risk everything for love." And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a good line. And then she's like, "Well, this is going to hurt you more than it'll hurt me." And I'm just like, I've always hated that line because it's not going to hurt you at all. What are you talking about? You're sticking me with the thing. I have to deal with the side effects. You get nothing. So anyway, so the Charmed one. So after that scene, it's a quick little scene just to kind of set it up. But after that scene, we get a scene of basically the Charmed ones figuring out what their next move is against the Perfecti. Maggie's trying to get visions, but can't get any. Macy, what is it? Mel, is lighting candles to protect them from the Perfecti. So the Perfecti can't come in if they have the candles done. That's an important thing. And then Macy is trying to use the mirror to read the Perfecti's memories. So Maggie thinks maybe they're just gone. And it's just like, obviously that's not true. We know that as the viewers already, but it seems weird that they even think that that's true. But Macy comes up with the idea of adding something to the mirror in order to actually be able to use it in the way that they want to. Mel's like, "We have some of that at the command center," and then goes, and then of course she's attacked by the Perfecti because the candle gets blown out. And I'm like, oh gosh, Like if it's a magical flame, it should be like resistant to like a gust of wind. But anyway, so they do this thing and they say, "Hey, your head's gonna explode if you don't surrender by midnight tonight." Of course, midnight. So they're like, "Yeah, you have to surrender it to the tomb, or your head's gonna explode." And it's just like, "Oh, okay." So they're like, "You have to be on bed rest." And you just need to be there. We're going to put you in a coma. And Ruby's here to take care of you. I'm like, oh, that's kind of sweet. Okay. I was like, this is nice. This is nice. We already knew that she was going to be put into a coma. I thought maybe it would have been like a bigger deal, but like a way to kind of take her out of the show. But it's not actually. That's a whole thing. Like she's in a coma, but we get multiple scenes of her like in her mind in the coma. So it wasn't like a device that they tried to use to remove her from the episode, which is kind of what I was thinking. I wasn't sure. And then I had a thought. I was like, wait a minute, if they seal the tomb back up, shouldn't that get rid of the allergy? Like, I'm feeling like if they do that, it should get rid of the allergy. I don't know. We're pretty sure that it doesn't, because by the end of the episode, they're still having to keep their space and whatnot. But I don't know. I was like, it should, right? So Celeste tells Harry that he shouldn't try and help and that he would really just be a liability. And he goes, well, then maybe you should come. And she's like, oh, yeah, maybe I should come. So she comes and she's just like, let me get this mirror. Oh, yeah, this is what you do. Bam, memory, done. Because Celeste is like, it would be bad if they ever made like Celeste her like their enemy, like because she can do too much. Honestly, she's a nice Deus Ex Machina for the show. But they bring up the memory of them fighting against a golem, and then the golem defeats them, and they're put into the tomb. And the golem, we find out, is a super weapon. It's a banned spell. And they believe it's the only hope against the Perfecti. And you know what? I'm like, all right, that sounds like I mean, they really have no other way to defeat them. So this idea presented itself. I think that that's not a bad idea. I'm like, okay, cool. So they need mud and a demonic password. So, okay, cool. They're like, well, we're going to go ask Fenric the Vile, because he's an old enough demon that should know a password. And we're going to offer him this mirror so that he, it's good, whatever. And then they're like, but Abby's the only one who can get him to give it up. And I don't know why they didn't call her. Well, Macy says, no, she's a wild card, and this is Mel's life that we're talking about. As if like nobody heard that Abby literally said with her own mouth under a truth spell that Mel is like the one that she actually cares about, and she would do anything to be right by her and like all of these good things. Like, so doesn't that kind of make her the perfect person to call? Like, that didn't make any sense. Why they wouldn't call, like, if Macy was in the coma, maybe we don't call Abigail. But if Mel's in the coma, you call Abby. Like, she would definitely say yes to helping out Mel. Anyone else, no. Mel or Harry, she would help out either of them in a heartbeat. So it doesn't make any sense why. Anyway, they needed an excuse for Maggie to be put under glamour to make her look like Abigail. And anyway, that's the route they went. It's not the route I would have gone, but it's the route they went. So Celeste is like, again, super powerful. And while they're working on putting the golem together, her and Macy, Harry starts feeling faint. He starts like getting some paranoia, and anxiety starts kicking in. And it's a side effect of him, I guess, becoming more mortal because of the serum. And I thought it was well done because he got super duper paranoid, which is, basically what anxiety is. And then he started like, so I'm not skipping ahead, but there's some stuff in it that I'm like, he started changing my mind. Like, because I was like, yeah, I mean, the golem sounds like a great idea. Obviously, that's the route this makes perfect sense. Let's do it. And then Maggie visits Fenric as Abby. And I feel like Poppy Drayton, I think, shows just how good of an actress she is in this episode, because she's not just playing herself. She gets to play Maggie pretending to be her character. So it's like, oh man, like, and she did an amazing job. Like, I feel like she got all of Sarah Jeffrey's like mannerisms and body movements. I don't know what preparation they did in order to like prepare her for coming up and trying to be Maggie playing her, but she did an amazing job. I know Poppy Drayton is leaving. I hope that she gets another show. Like, I feel like she's on the level of like Tatiana, somebody that I can't remember her last name, the one from Orphan Black, where I feel like she really can just play a lot of different characters, and I think this episode is a good example of that. So just saying all of that up front. So she's engaging, and it's not really going all that well. Cut back to Macy telling Celeste to like, hey, can you stop whatever's happening here with Harry? And Celeste actually has a really cool moment. She's like, I'm a slow learner. And I know one thing, I am not going to act against Harry's free will ever again. And I'm like, wow, like that actually to me is a really good kind of turning point for Celeste, because, you know, when we were first introduced to her, she was very like, bam, like, nope, if it's for the greater good, it doesn't matter how terrible the thing that I'm doing. And I feel like this is a really good kind of turning around. And, you know, she doesn't get a lot of screen time or whatever, so it is what it is. This is probably the only redemption proof we're going to get. But I thought it was really good. And I liked how Macy was like, no, we need to do this. And she's like, no, like, honestly, in this case, I am better than you. Hello to the people who are popping up. Cece, Jocelyn, Blazer, Ezekiel. I'm seeing you guys. I'm saying hi, just saying. I'm trying to run through this episode. This episode actually didn't have, I have less notes about this episode than I normally do, because honestly, there was not that much to complain about. As you guys know, I love to complain. There wasn't actually much to complain about in this episode. I think they did a darn good job. And again, I want to just point out that the direction in this video, in this episode, was really good. So Maggie, as Abby, calls Abby and says, Maggie, and she's like, hey, you're trying to pretend to be me. And she's like, yeah, I needed to do it to trick the Fenric. And she's like, why didn't you just freaking call me? Which is, of course, what you should have. That's what they should have done. So anyway, Abby says, well, you need to trick him into thinking he already has his powers. And Maggie is, of course, really bad at this. So he figures it out that, like, no, like, you're not actually Abigail. So, but she does figure it out. She like grabs a key and he's like, that's to my wine cellar. And she's just like, of course, this is how I was able to trick you. I kept your key under your nose and broke it, said some nonsense words, and then filled him with the emotion of feeling powerful. And I was like, oh, see, that's actually really, really good. I loved the use of powers. We actually had both Macy and Maggie use their powers in this episode. So I just like to point that out because we have a lot of complaints from people who are like, they don't use their powers enough. And they actually both use their powers in this episode. And technically, we can even say that Mel used her powers in this episode, but it's her future powers, her future time powers. We'll get to that in a second. So they actually all used the powers this episode. So great. So yeah, but I guess the problem with if they had asked Abigail to go, she would not have been in a position to use Maggie's power. So it actually worked out good that they didn't ask Abby, because Abigail would have had to come up with some other idea as opposed to this idea. But at the same time, literally, they could have just called Abigail, and I think she's savvy enough. She probably could have just tricked Fenric without having to even use any powers, because she is the demon overlord. I mean, there's the thing. Yeah. So let's see. And then I had the thought, Ruby's actually I'm glad that Ruby is there, and it's cool that it was like, oh, Abby's there. I'm sorry that Ruby's there, but like, actually, she's actually a bad choice to come take care of Mel, because literally she still can't get close to Mel. Even if she's in a coma, the allergy is still there. So she can't get close to her. She can't give her medicine or take care of her or do anything. Like, you saw how there was a scene where she threw another blanket on her because they were like, oh, she feels like she's dying and she's getting cold. And he threw another blanket on her. And it's just like, you threw another blanket on her, but like, you had to like basically like throw it on her because you couldn't get close. So it's just like, actually, as sweet as it was, Ruby's a bad person to come take care of her. Just saying. It just seemed weird. So then Harry says, so then Harry starts kind of freaking out, and he comes in and he goes, this is what the Perfecti wanted. They wanted you to make the Golem, and then he grabs it and blips away. And you know what? At this point in the episode, I write this in my notes. I say, that's kind of an idea that actually sounds plausible. Everything that you've been saying before then, like, oh, the plastic bag, it's terrible. You know, I was like, no, but like, what if they put that particular memory in the mirror and that so that the charmed ones would find it? And then, you know, the saying is that paranoia is only paranoia if they're not actually out to get you. And in this case, I was like, wait a minute. I think he might be right in this case. So even at this point, it's interesting that like they weren't convinced, but like he convinced me. I was like, actually, that sounds pretty plausible. That makes a lot of sense to me. Like if I was an evil genius, I'd be like, yeah, that's obviously what I would do. So they track him to the asylum. He brings the Golem to the asylum that Dark Helen used to be kept in, which I thought was an interesting set piece. And I think it's close to him and his, you know, central storyline. So I liked it. And also, I would just like to point out that Maggie, as Abigail, is no longer talking with an accent from Abigail because she got the password and came back. And so now she's talking without an accent because she's no longer pretending to be Abigail. And I thought it was freaky hearing Abigail without an accent. I don't know if anybody else felt like, oh, that's weird, but it was weird, but not unpleasant. And, you know, it was fine, but it was just weird because I'm so used to her having the accent. So yeah, so he's like, no, I'm not going to give it to you. It's going to kill you. You can't have the Golem. And again, you know what? Here's the thing too, is that what Celeste said is that the Golem is so powerful that it was designed to be commanded by both demons and witches. You would need to have a demon witch like combo, like that's what it was. And I'm like, if there's no demons who are doing any part of this, then actually, again, I'm kind of on board with what Harry's saying. If you don't have a demon there to also control it, then that's a bad thing. And that could be a catalyst for it going to kill you. Now, this was before we even learned about the Bloodstones. So Bloodstones. So Maggie does a good job, you know, calming Harry down because his anxiety is the worst. But he's like, we can use it as a tool. Like literally, I'm seeing things other people aren't seeing. You're an empath. Don't you also see it? And she's like, Bloodstone. Oh no, Vervac, which is the demon word to, you know, make the Golem come alive, is Bloodstone, and the Perfecti wear bloodstones around their necks. I don't think that they've ever mentioned bloodstones before this point. If they had, I think it would maybe have been more impactful for us as viewers. At this point, this is the first we've heard of bloodstones and the first that any attention has been drawn to their necklaces, as far as I remember watching these episodes. So, you know, I mean, it's good. It was a good way. They're like, oh, that's how they're controlling it. But I was also like, like if they had just maybe 2 episodes ago had drawn attention to their bloodstones in some way, just so that it would be on our minds and then we would pick up the connection as well. Maybe, I don't know. But it just seemed like it's a weird kind of writing in this. I think that's my only little maybe sticking point in this episode, is that I think that maybe could have been handled better with a little bit of foreshadowing. Otherwise, the characters in the show are the only ones who could come to that conclusion. We as viewers, we're like, we basically we won't come to that conclusion on our own. So there's that. So let's see here. But again, I was totally on board with Harry and what's happening here. So Celeste says the words, it brings the golems to life, but the Perfecti were expecting this, so they're like at a distance and they're hearing it because they're connected to via the bloodstone to the golem. And there you go. Yeah. And they're like, oh my God, you mean that the memory that they put in the mirror was just like a magical deep fake, which I thought that was a pretty fun way to say it, like a magical deep fake. And the golem actually was the way that they defeated the old charmed ones, not the other way around. And I was like, yeah, see, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, they obviously were able to manipulate it. And, you know, if the mirror belonged to them, then it's theirs. And why wouldn't they be able to manipulate it with their magic? So that just kind of made sense to me. So it wakes up, comes after the charmed one. So yay. Celeste keeps trying to use the word like over and over again, and it's not working. And I was like, okay, I think we had figured it out by this point. Stop trying. So the stones, the Perfecti have, they are the ones that control it. They shoot it with magic. like she's using her telekinesis, like shooting magic at it, and it's like it's breaking through, and I'm like, but Celeste already told us at the beginning, like that's the entire point of it, is that it has no soul and it has no like being, so it is resistant and sometimes immune to magical effects. Like that's the whole point. So like I would have just run in the first place. They're like, I'll hold it back, and it's just like, but we told you up front, like it's going to be immune to your magic. It just seemed weird. That's the whole point of the Golem, is that it's that powerful. So Macy figures out that the Perfecti's certainty is their weakness. So if you convince them that they've won, then they'll just be like, of course we won. And then you can use that to lure them into a trap. So Harry teleports the Golem away. They pretend that the charmed ones have been dead. And when the Perfecti show up, they see Abigail, who's obviously still Maggie. They see, and Abigail's like, oh, I can't believe they died trying to perfect me. And they're like, okay, cool. We're going to open up a door to the tomb and we're going to throw you in there, Abigail, because you totally deserve to be in there. And then, you know, Abigail turns back to Maggie and they steal the necklaces, and then they now have control of the golems, and they use the golem to throw the Perfecti into the portals. And here's the thing. So here's the part that I didn't. Okay, this is another part that I didn't like about it. Two quibbles is that they're like, okay, cool, we're going to stick you back into the tomb. And they literally turn around and they go, oh, that's the thing. One thing that Mel, before I jump into the actual point I want to make, but Maggie had a really good line. She said, power without humanity is the ultimate chaos. And I was like, oh, that's good. That's good. I like that a lot. But then as they're throwing them into the portal, they're like, this is a mistake. There's another danger out there, a more terrible danger, and you're going to need our help to defeat it. You won't be able to do it by yourself. And I'm like, do they really think that that's going to work? Because, like, so our options are, we don't send you to the tomb and you keep trying to kill us, or we keep you, or we put you into the tomb and something else tries to come and kill us. Like, no, like you're trying to kill us and you were happy when we died. So it didn't make any sense. So anyway, I was just like, you can't convince me to keep you alive when you've been trying to kill me. That's just stupid. And then the portal shuts and the Golem and the Perfecti are now gone. Yeah, Mel wakes up almost instantly, and then Harry and Celeste have a kind of a nice moment talking about how the chemistry settles and how bad anxiety is and stuff. And I was like, I thought that was good. Then at the end, we get a debrief scene, and I said I really like debrief scenes at the end of these episodes, where Mel says, I had a dream, but it wasn't a dream, when she just said that the scene before. I thought that was a little clumsy too. She's like, I had a dream. To Ruby, she's like, I had a dream, but I don't think it was a dream. And then the next scene with her sister, she's like, I had a dream, but it wasn't a dream. And it's just like, okay, we get it. It wasn't a dream. So, but she stands up and she shows off her baby bump, and that she's like, yes, now I have to carry my future baby. And I was like, you know what? That's good. I wasn't sure if they were going to, they hadn't yet. So I was like, maybe, you know, we only don't have that many episodes left. So I was like, they could easily just ignore the baby and just don't incorporate it into the episode. But they decided to incorporate the baby into the actual show. So now she doesn't have to wear trench coats everywhere and giant sweaters, because that's what they've been doing. But now she has, I mean, we don't know anything else other than that. It's just she has to now carry her future baby to term, I guess, and who knows what's going to happen with that. Of course, in my book, it's always like, oh gosh, like anytime I think of you know, baby pregnancy, magical baby pregnancies, it always brings me back to Angel with Jasmine and whatnot. So hopefully it's not that type of situation, because here's the thing. Yes, it could be her future self, but what if this is all a fake thing? This could be the future threat. Like, that's the thing. So if it is kind of a Jasmine situation, then Mel could be now pregnant with this baby that was given to her by her from the future, but we don't know that it's her from the future. How would we know that? She didn't like ask questions that only I would know or anything like that. She just took it on blind faith and said, yeah, give me that baby. You know, so I think if she gives birth, this baby might be the big, terrible, dangerous thing. And so it might be a Jasmine situation where she's going to give birth, and then the being that she gives birth to becomes the big bad. I was not expecting, honestly, what is this, episode 14? So we have 2 more episodes after this. Isn't that right? I think we're going up to 16. Oh, gosh. Let me check now. If somebody knows, season 3, if somebody knows exactly, I think we're either getting 16 or we're getting 18 episodes, and I just don't remember. Please, somebody tell me if you guys know the answer to that, because I don't. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that we are now kind of at a point where like we just got rid of the big bad that I thought was going to be the big bad. And I don't know what to do about that. So yeah, no, we're going to 18 episodes. Okay, so we're going to 18 episodes, and this was 14. So now, I mean, really though? Because that means that now we have 4 episodes to introduce yet another threat and then get rid of that threat within 4 episodes. So that seems a bit much. I was thinking that the Perfecti were going to stick around and they were going to be much more of an ongoing threat, but they presented themselves as the bad guy and then they're gone the next episode. And that's, I think that's also, I mean, that's not really something for me to be like, I'm not really quibbling about it, but that is an ongoing thing ever since the 2nd season. And honestly, in the 1st season, is that every bad guy that pops up, they deal with it in either an episode or 2, sometimes possibly 3, and then it's gone. And like, that's just it. So now we have to introduce a new big bad, unless it's Fenric, because the scene where they took the thing and they tricked him into thinking he had power, they left him with the mirror, which means maybe Fenric is now the bad, the new big bad for the season. But like, I'm sure he can use the memories in a weird way to, maybe he can do the memory of looking, because you can use it to look at other people's memories, which was, interesting, because, the Charmed Ones were using the thing to look at Abigail's memories. So if he can now use it to look at other people's memories like they were, then that is kind of dangerous, because now he can basically learn about the Charmed Ones and learn about Abigail and use that information to, he can't necessarily leave his exile, but that doesn't mean he can't make deals with other things. I don't know. And Mel said a thing she said, and most of our demon problem has been taken care of, which means there are demons that have not been put back into the tomb that now will never go back into the tomb, because they don't have a way to put it back into the tomb. You definitely don't want to reopen it, because the Perfecti might find a way out. So there might still just be some pre-civilization demons kind of out here hanging out, because they didn't get rid of them before getting rid of I don't know. It's weird. Fenric is the only real candidate to be now the new big bad. I don't know. It's going to be weird. I didn't see the promo for the next episode, but if I look at the write-up for the next episode, let me see, Schrodinger's future, Maggie has a disturbing vision forcing her and Macy to pay a visit to the future. Mel and Harry struggle with challenging new circumstances, also starring Poppy Drayton. So that's basically it. So Macy and Maggie are going to go to the future. Mel and Harry are going to stay in the present and deal with something. But like, now it seems like we're going to kind of go back to them just kind of dealing with their own personal stuff and not necessarily fighting anything, which I enjoy to a point, but not if every time there's a really good, interesting big bad, they get rid of it in an episode or 2. So I guess, so I am complaining a little bit, I guess. So, but what I will say is that this episode was really, really, really good. Besides the couple of quibbles that I had, which weren't even problems I had, they were just like, you could have maybe done this better, a little bit better this way. But I thought, honestly, I had said this before. I'd said that this, like, I think 2 episodes ago, I had said was like the best episode that they had done. I think now this is the best episode that they've done. I really think it was executed really well, from the acting to the writing to the direction. I thought it was really, really good. If this was a season finale, I would have been happy with this as a season finale. I'm kind of not happy with it because we still have 4 more episodes, and it seems like they've now tied up all of the major storylines going on. And this, I mean, again, I don't know. Maybe Godric will come back. And if it's Godric coming back, I'm okay with that. Like, I'd be okay if he comes back. Otherwise, it's introducing brand new characters to now be big bads, unless they use Fenric. So Fenric or Godric. But then it turns into the charmed ones versus demons again, which I think is what everybody else wants it to be. But I like the idea of kind of ambiguous demons. And I wish that they would stick with that and actually use that and utilize that as an ongoing actual storyline. So I'm going to hit some of these comments here because I'm sure you guys are saying some stuff that's very interesting, and I'm going to stop rambling. So let me see. So after the Perfecti lost the case, they threw tantrums for 2 weeks and came back with a plan to defeat the Charmed Ones and keep Abby in the tomb. Well, I think that's not framing it correctly. They lost and they went away and they waited for the Charmed Ones to essentially fall into their trap because they left the mirror. That means that they left the mirror with them on purpose, knowing that eventually they'd figure out how to unlock the memory and then they would fall into the plan. So they could have waited longer. They were just like, we're waiting for them to fall into a trap. So I don't think it was necessarily they threw a tantrum because, again, the ultimate chaos is power without humanity. They don't have any humanity. They're completely logical creatures. So they're not like, we're throwing a tantrum. They're like, no, we're going to lay in wait and we're going to wait for them to unlock, to fall into our trap. So yes, it took 2 weeks for that, but still it wasn't necessarily exactly the way that you framed it there. Why didn't they do the spell that Macy did to strip Fiona of her immortality in season 1? Well, because it's different with White Lighters. I mean, we can hand wave a lot of that stuff away. Like, and also there's a thing with magic, and I like shows that have like episodal actual, like, when you cast that spell, like it's a special thing and you can't just keep casting that spell constantly, because a lot of the time the spell that you use to get rid of this big bad demon, you'd be like, oh, well, why don't you just use that every day? And that's honestly what a lot of the first season felt like to me. They were like, cool, we have this new spell, let's use it again. Oh, new bad guy? Oh, we might need to tweak it a little bit, but we'll just use it again. And then again and again and again and again. And just became like, I made a whole video about how powerful they were, because they would come up with a new spell and they would hold on to that spell and just pull it out because it was super powerful, and then just use it again. I like the idea of, spells that you use for one episode and then, you either forget it or it was rare, so you don't have more ingredients or something to that effect. They're everyday powers. That makes sense. They can use those as much as they want, but anything else, it is overpowering for them to have access to so much, because then it makes them like Celeste, where Celeste is just like, oh no, you just use this and you got it. And it's just like, man, I don't want to watch a show where the Charmed Ones are as powerful as Celeste, because then it's just like every problem, they already have the solution. And that's not interesting. That's not good storytelling. So let's see. They can't do that. Yeah. Okay. So I think that spell might have been dark magic. Well, there's that too. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because Macy she was doing her demon side and she had the needle thing and all that stuff. And yeah, so she can't do that because Abigail has her demon powers. Now they could probably bring on Abby and ask Abby yet again for another favor if they wanted to. All right, so let's see. Why didn't Fenric use the logic power on Maggie Abigail? I think because he already saw that it didn't necessarily work last time. And last time, because honestly, that's exactly what happened. Is last time he used it on them and it didn't work. So why? The definition of insanity is to use do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. So there's that. Let's see. I just want to know who the father of Mel's baby is. We'll probably never know. I don't know. Who knows? Hey, Dammy. So let's see. They could have just asked Abby, but I guess they forgot how she feels or didn't want to make it awkward. I don't think they forgot. I think if Mel was there, Mel would have said, yeah, ask Abigail. But you have two people who don't trust Abigail, again, regardless of the fact that she said all of these things under her truth serum, unless they don't trust their own truth serum. Like, if you don't trust your own magic, then yes, of course, distrust Abigail. But if you think your magic is is the shit, then you should trust that you got the truth from her, meaning she would have helped. Again, if it's Harry or if it's Mel, Abigail's going to be there to help. The rest of y'all, like, nah, she probably hates y'all. Celeste asked for help. She'd be like, where can I put the knife? They didn't want to take advantage of... You really think that the Charmed Ones are worried about taking advantage of Abigail's feelings? Because that's not what they said. They're like, she's a wild card. That's what she said. She's a wild card. They're not going to be able to... We're not going to know what she's going to do. It's like, no. It's definitely not for caring about Abigail's feelings. But it is nice that you would put that on them and make them seem like they are better people than they are. Love this episode. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to complain about this episode. It was amazing. I found some reasons. I found a couple of little quibbles, but Ruby has a child in the future. That's true. And that's probably this kid. But that future was erased because Mel didn't die that day. So that whole future doesn't necessarily exist. Gosh, it's making me think of... It's just making me think of now, of Loki now. So it's just like, oh, that version of Ruby and that child are now being... they're going to have to be subsumed into the master timeline. So let's see. Harry was right. I'm so glad. Was worried he was sabotaging his efforts at first. You know, and that's the thing. He ended up being right. But the first time that he mentioned it, I'm like, damn, that's actually a really good point. It could be a trap. And I was on board. I did not think it was a trap at first. And then as soon as he said anything, I was like, no, that makes perfect sense. Of course, they're the Perfecti. They would totally do this and this and this and this and this. Again, it was the bloodstone thing was the thing that didn't make sense because they didn't do any foreshadowing of that. They didn't tell us or mention their bloodstones. Nobody talked about their bloodstones. So there wasn't anything like Vervac, like how is, like, I guess that's my next question is, like, Maggie's just like, no, because Vervac means bloodstone. It's just like, how would you know that? It's like an old demonic Latin word. How would you know that it means bloodstone? Unless it was something that Fenric said and maybe I missed it. I don't know. We'll hit that in a minute. The Golem is a powerful dummy. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. Also, it's Golem. It's Golem. Golem. Gollum is from Lord of the Rings. So you're spelling it the, oh, my precious way and not the way. You feel free to use my pantomime as illustrations. On the original Charm, they had a demon and a witch. They had a demon and witch, good and evil, guarding something that the source went to get. Yeah, exactly. But again, I like the gray area. I prefer that, to be quite honest. I don't think that they will follow protocol. They likely let her have the baby and then write it out of the show by giving it back or sending it to the future. I don't know. I think it's that, who knows? But again, I think that if you introduce a baby in an episode and then at the same time have the bad guy say something more terrible is coming, and there's no idea as to what else that big terrible thing could be, then we are led to believe as the viewers that this baby is that terrible thing. That's all I'm saying. And it might not be, but definitely at this point, I'm thinking it's either Fenric is going to use the mirror for something, and then he's going to be the new big bad for the last 4 episodes, or that baby, something's going to happen with that baby. That baby. I like saying it like that. I don't know why. So Fenric is going to take over the world with his logic powers. I don't think so. Again, he already tried it on them and it didn't work. So why would he try it again? I don't know. So let's see. I have a feeling the ancient charmed ones that the Perfecti trapped could be the trio of darkness the ghost witch warned Jordan about. Could be. But my guess is that the Perfecti likely killed a bunch of charmed ones. Like, they might be the reason that, every generation a charmed one is killed. Like, what if they were the ones who cursed them or something? Who even knows at this point? It's all kind of up in the air. Abigail will only kill Maggie if she was trying to hurt Mel. Yeah, I mean, I don't see that. I I see up here that you're like Abigail killed Maggie, and I'm like, no, Maggie's still there, because she was on the phone with her, so like, bam, done. Let's see. It seems like they are getting rid of everyone from season 2. Jordan left, Abby is leaving, Josefina left, and all the other characters from season 2 we haven't really seen recently, like Kevin. Well, Kevin was introduced in this season, in season 3. So Kevin wasn't from season 2. So there's that. The Josefina came and left this season, so also not from season 2. Jordan and Abby are leaving. But I was very happy with Jordan leaving because I feel like he made the right choice for him as a person. And like, I have no ill will against him as a person saying, this is all too much for me, I'm going, because I think probably I might make the same decision. Abigail is leaving. I think it's because I don't think the writers know what to do with her, because they introduce these very gray area kind of ideas, and that's where she exists and she does it well. But then at the same time, they're trying to make this gray character operate in a black and white world, and it doesn't really work. And it feels like they're inching themselves closer and closer to being more back to the feel of the original, OG Charmed of we're good and everything else is bad, and we are completely right in everything that we do, as opposed to the gray area that I kind of like. The thing with the gray area is that you have to remember that you have to have as much white in there as you do black. And I think that's where the show kind of went away, where they made it gray area, but in that case, it's like they made it a darker gray as opposed to a lighter gray. If we can keep the gray, but make it a lighter gray, that's where I would want to be. But it looks like it's going to be back to black and white and not that. So, I mean, that's just my thought. Let's see. They should bring Godric back because last time we saw him, he was trying to kill Abby Parker and the Charmed ones, and then he just never came back but was mentioned. Well, that's the thing is, I think that, he's probably dead. And I've said this in previous episodes, is that he's probably dead because for Abigail to become the demon overlord again, which she is now, she would have had to kill Godric to do that, because I don't think he's just going to relinquish his control. So that's my thing. Macy's just still salty about the Abigail kiss, sadly. Some people can be petty, and that would be Macy. That's the promo for the next episode. Maggie's supposed to be dead. But Maggie and Macy go to the future. So everybody's dead in the future. Whatever. And then, yes, I agree with you, Young Jet, as well. So, yeah, there you go. I really like this episode. Normally we go like super long. I think the last review we did, I went for like an hour and 20 minutes because I was like, and this was wrong, and that was wrong. This episode, though, it was pretty damn solid, to be quite honest. There were just a couple of things, and they even got me on a couple of, they had me going along with the idea of the golem until Harry said something and then snapped me back into my analytical, over-analyzing brain and said, oh my God, you're right. This could be a trap. But no, I really dug this episode. I hope that everybody liked the episode, and hopefully I added some good context and some ideas and stuff. I never want these to just be me, like, I tell you guys what happened in the episode, bye. Like, I really hope that I add more context and more ideas and some interesting storytelling feedback on these episodes. It's definitely like I've had some people come on to some of these and they're just like, why do you hate Macy so much? And I'm like, I don't. I want Macy to be great. I want Macy, and I'm doing these reviews because I watch the show and I love the show. Anything I say that may be critical of the show is not because I don't like the show. It's because I'm pointing it out so that maybe we can correct these things and make the show better. If we're not able to critique the things that we love, then the things that we love, that means that you're, following blindly. Like, who wants to do things blindly? Like, I like seeing, like, personally, I like to be able to see things. So it doesn't make any sense to me to not be able to critique the things that because I watch the show every week, just like all of you. And I'm rooting for these characters. And even like people are like, how are you taking Abigail's side when she's, this evil thing? And I'm just like, well, think of it this way. I don't expect a ton out of a half-demon side character. The stars of the show, the charmed ones, I expect a lot out of them because they are our heroes. They are our protagonists. So when they make a wrong step, it's not the same thing as a side character making a wrong step. Remember when Josefina was here? And I was just like, well, Josefina's obviously going to betray them at some point. Oh, look, she betrayed them. Bam, done. And then she betrayed them, and then they made friends, and then they left. Like, I'm not going to overly judge Josefina. They introduced her saying what she was going to do. She did it, and then she left. And, like, I have no ill will against that character. But then if you tell us that the charmed ones are the forces of good and they're supposed to be fighting against the evil, but then every time that they're on screen, they are bad people, well, then that's when I have to point that out because you are not following what we think about the character, who the character should be. So I would love for them to stop writing Macy with this, like, Abby's the worst. Like, it makes her seem petty. And it makes her feel like she is a worse person than I want her to be. And that's where I'm at with it. So, I'm hoping that, like, maybe one of the writers maybe watches these, one can dream. But I mean, I would tell the writers too, I love what you guys are doing. I feel like maybe there needs to be somebody in the writer's room like me, who's just like, yeah, but what is this saying about the character? Like, it's fine. Like, they're having the characters go do things, and those things make logical sense within the way that they're framed. But what if we changed some of the framing of some of these things? That would be great. Maybe we make these characters make less emotional decisions and more decisions that feel more authentic to them as people and not caricatures, So I don't know. It's just weird how anybody would watch any of my reviews and think that I'm hating on any of the characters. It's a thing, right? It's just a thing. I don't know. It's weird. So let me see what people are saying here. Why do people think Macy is salty about a kiss? Couldn't she just still be salty because Abigail tried to murder her? I would still be salty too. I don't know. I mean, she could just be salty because of that, but that doesn't seem to be what she's salty about, because she tried to kill her just like she tried to kill the charmed ones. They also have now tried to kill her on a couple of occasions, and she's also saved them on a few occasions. They've worked together on a few occasions, and nothing about Macy and the way that she is written makes us think that she is still mad that she tried to kill the charmed ones. Everything about it has been tied up in the love triangle that was Abigail, Macy, and Harry, which kind of doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't really exist anymore. I don't think it exists for anybody except Macy now at this point. And the only reason, during the trial episode, Abigail brought it up because she knows is the sticking point with Macy, and she was trying to drive Macy away so that she could just stay in the prison. So, even she knows that it's not necessarily really a thing, but it can still be used as a manipulation tool of Macy. So, yeah, I mean, they tried to murder Abigail. Abigail tried to murder them. I guess now at this point, do we just call it even? Okay, so if she tried to kill them and they tried to kill Abigail, and that's even, well, now let's go ahead and compare how many times they've helped the other one out. Oh, yeah, they've never helped Abigail out. Absolutely never. And Abigail keeps coming to the rescue of them every single time. Yeah, they would never, they would never do it. I don't know. It's weird. It's crazy. Anyway, so yeah, I don't think that it is the fact that she tried to kill them, because that was also now 2 seasons ago. Essentially, we're getting to the end of season 3. So that happened near the beginning of season 2. And there's been so much more that has happened since that point, that at any point, if they were still miffed that she tried to kill them, I think they would have said something. Instead, it's just been a bunch of complaining about Abigail going after Harry. So there you go. Yeah, well, let me see. She was trying to give her any defense to get Jordan out of the tomb, and she didn't believe it. Well, okay, but that's the thing, right? Is I feel like, well, that's the thing. When they gave her the truth serum, then though, it was like, again, it wasn't that Abigail didn't know the truth. It was the fact that, let me see, how would I word this? It wasn't that she didn't know the truth. It was the fact that she thought that she was a bad person, and honestly, staying in the tomb was her way away from the inner demon that was trying to kill her. And honestly, that was Abigail trying to find the easy way out, even if it was at somebody else's expense. Which is also, that's a shitty thing for Abigail to do too. And that's the thing, is that I can totally point out when Abigail did something shitty. Nobody can point out when Macy did something also shitty. And that's the point of contention that I have with a lot of people who watch the show. They're like, well, no, Macy should be mad and she should be doing this and blah, blah, blah. Because Abigail is a demon. So obviously, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, yeah, Abigail did some bad stuff. But again, she's a half demon side character. The main characters should not fall to this. They're held to a higher standard. They can't be held to the same standard as a side character who has an abusive background and all of this stuff. Like, it can't be that. So anyway, there you go. Let me see. Yeah, and you only tried to kill us because you thought that we sent the Dark Lighter after you. Which back then, her response to anybody trying to kill her was to kill them, unless it was Parker. Like, Parker was the exception to that rule because she had a couple of chances to kill Parker and didn't because it was her brother. So that's a good point. But you're right. There really isn't a good excuse to try and kill anybody. So that was a bad thing that she did. It was also bad for them to try and kill her. So again, I don't know what to say. And again, it's not like I'm trying to, I'm not necessarily even defending Abigail by, saying that she didn't do anything bad. All I'm saying is that I feel like the good that she's done outweighs the bad that she's done. I wouldn't even say that they're even. I would even say that she has acted more on the side of good. She's kind of like that anti-hero where, she does bad things, but for good, almost like Celeste, so, but even Celeste is now being redeemed. Jordan got redeemed. Abigail's going to be redeemed. They're going to redeem all these characters and then let them leave. That's what I see. So anyway, again, I love the show, which is why I watch it, and which is why I love coming on here and talking about it for an hour. Like, you don't do that with a show you don't love. But obviously, it's my job as a viewer and as somebody who has a channel I guess it's not really, I don't have to do it, but I love doing it. But I come on here and I point out things that I like. I point out things that I don't like. And I call people on their blind loyalty to people who call themselves the Charmed Ones and Forces of Good, even though they're out there doing bad shit. So anyway, all right. I think I'm done. I will talk to you guys later. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification. I've been your host, Aloy. This has been the Turnout. Thanks for showing up, and we'll see you next week when the next episode comes. Bye!